So, from our conversation an hour ago, I had the thought that kept coming up over and over again is I have to generalize my work, my class, because if I teach them the specifics, then that there's a lot more liability. But generalizing my class is it's not my it's not something I want to do, but I think I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to generalize my class so
Okay.
that I don't get liability if someone does something wrong.
Okay. So the thought you want to question is you have to generalize your class?
Yeah, because well, not because just I'm
All right.
resistant to doing that. I like to teach very specifics with safety in mind. But if I
Okay.
generalize my class, then I can cover a broader range of equipment and just tell them things they should be looking for. But in my head, I'm like, I don't like doing that because
Okay.
it's kind of like saying, here's how you drive. First, you get in the car. And you
Then
put
you
in
keep
your,
it on the road.
yeah, exactly. And the big round thing, if there is one, you know,
If your version has a round thing, then just turn it when it seems
exactly,
appropriate.
exactly. So I mean, that may be part of what I'm thinking, but I'm also thinking like I have to come up with a way to make it so that I can do this class and not get anybody hurt. So generalizing it is
Right.
my answer.
So is it like I don't want to generalize my class? Is that
I really don't like generalizing. I like to teach them on their equipment and had to plug in here. Yeah, I prefer to teach them the specifics of their equipment because even though it's one piece of equipment that has a lot of makers, each one of them has its tricky way of doing something. But I mean, I
right?
can generalize it, but that also, just the thought of doing it makes me tired because then I have to go through my existing class, make new slides, get different videos, show them all this stuff.
Okay.
So
So you don't want to generalize your
I don't
class.
want to generalize my class. Even though in order to do it, I'm going to have to.
So is it true? You don't want to generalize your class.
Uh-huh.
I think we got that picture.
Right.
So
Oh.
can you absolutely know it's true? You don't want to.
No, see, I'm playing with the difference between need and want. And when it's want, I don't want to. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's absolutely clear. You
Yeah.
don't
I
want
don't
to.
want to have to do this, but it will work. Okay.
Right. Okay. So how do you react? What happens when you don't want to generalize your class and you're starting to think you have to generalize it?
I look at my existing training program, and I see that there's only a little bit of it that I can use. So I'm already tired thinking about the next 3 days of having to create a new training program and cover what needs to be in there and and it's still legal. So that's the first thing. It's like I have all these different criteria that have to be met for a training program, and I want it to be legal so that if someone has a problem with it, they won't be able to find anything in my training that caused their problem. But I won't have left anything out that they needed to go. So all that's going through my mind. And already mentally tired trying to do it. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Huh.
Yeah. Suddenly, it's not just like offering a class you've offered before, it's like creating a new class
Right.
almost.
It can take 40 up to 100 hours to create a class.
Yeah, I
And
believe it.
I'm I have to do this worksheet too. I don't want to back out. It's already scheduled and I've signed an agreement that I'll teach. So I don't want to back out of that. But I also, yeah, it's all illogical stuff that comes to me. I mean, like in the real world, I know that these guys have operated the equipment before, everything will be fine kind of stuff. But in my head, it's a lot of work. It's going to take all this time. I have to write a new class. I'm already tired thinking about it. How do I I'm thinking of different ways that I can do it, going some equipment is this way, some equipment is that way. And then in my head, I try to convince myself that that's better training because then they can operate any of the equipment. But oh, maybe it is. Well, I couldn't get to that with a mess in my head.
We were just simply reporting how you react. Sometimes that's all it takes. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
don't want to generalize my class. Yeah. Any other reactions?
Well, I see a past of just giving the the sitting points on something and people leaving really not knowing any more than they did when they came in. And so I don't, yeah, so that is a problem. And then if I generalize it and don't give them enough information and someone gets hurt, then I see myself having to testify, about what I taught them so that, and, and while thinking, the class wasn't really sufficient enough to keep them safe and then, find a way to blame the employer instead of me.
Mm, right. There's a lot going on here.
So funny. Yeah, and then I have all these ideas on how I can fix it. I can insist that an experienced worker is in the class so that they can demonstrate their equipment. I mean, they're all good ideas, but it's still in my mind. It's still prohibiting me from sitting here relaxing because I'm coming up with all this problem solving to this problem.
Yeah. Keeps the mind busy.
It's
Right.
very, and I get very analytical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel it. Just my whole body just gets tired.
Do any past images come in when you think you don't want to generalize your class?
I'm Yeah, this has happened only twice in the 40 years that I've been doing this kind of work. Um, Someone said that they told their boss that they didn't learn anything in my class, that I didn't teach them anything that was worthwhile. And the first time I heard that, then I started getting more specific on things, how they work and why and what not to do. And that worked. I didn't get any more complaints. But I taught a class last week and someone complained that I didn't teach certain parts of the class that I have video of me teaching.
Hmm.
And so so now I'm hurting from someone complaining about something that wasn't accurate. So that
Mhm.
put me in that place of cover my ass kind of place.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the past images are about being like getting negative feedback in a way,
Right.
right?
I mean, I've had negative feedback from other things, usually my language and but not the content of the class.
Right. That
I am
that
banned
hurts.
I am banned
Yes.
from one wastewater treatment plant for farting. They, I thought that was kind of interesting, but I did it exactly the way you're supposed to. So Yeah.
All right. So,
Okay.
who would you be without the thought that you don't want to generalize your class?
I would be contacting the client, telling them they have to find, if they have to order and pay for, an owner's manual for their equipment, that they should have documentation. That's something that the OSHA, the safety organization, requires, that people have the documentation that goes with their equipment, the manufacturer's documentation. So why didn't I think of that before? Okay. Yeah, I could
Yeah.
just insist that they have it and send me a copy so I can look at it. And then,
Okay.
a lot of the things are the same no matter what. You get a wood chipper, the safety summary is the same, but we're going to go out and actually operate it. So I don't want to operate something without the manual.
What else? What else?
So
Who would you
I
be
would think,
thinking about this class and preparing for it without the thought that you don't want to generalize this class? And you may have to.
I mean, yeah, okay. So without the thought, I would start looking at the class and see where I would need to generalize it. Like, like I would really see that there are some areas that have to be specific, and then some areas where I can just ask the students, if you got experience or know anything, do you have previous experience with this equipment or equipment like it? And 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 then without the thought, I don't mind going on YouTube and watching videos and picking out sections of videos that have good information, and preparing them to be able to use any piece of equipment. But and I could just get an owner's manual without it. I'm like, the problem is solved. I could just get an owner's manual for a piece of equipment and show them how to use the owner's manual, and they're on their own to get one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Boy, you can't solve these things when you're in it, huh?
That's it, right? When you're thinking, I don't want to generalize my class, you can't, all you can feel is resistance
Yeah.
and tired and all that. But once you're not in it, who would you be without the thought? There's some space and problem solving starts happening on the spot sometimes.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that worked.
Cool. So turn the thought around. I don't want to generalize my class.
I want to generalize my class, or semi-generalize it. It's a good idea to add safety hazards for other equipment with it. So I do want to put some generalized information in there. And if they get rid of that and get a new piece of equipment, or some of them go to a different city to work for, then they'll have a really good idea of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's helpful for your students.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other things that, like when you look at the workload that you will have to do to generalize and go through it, how would you be willing or want to go through that, if it's
That's a good point,
necessary?
because I would still need to go through all my slides, but I tend to review my slides prior to a class. I haven't done this one yet this year, so that would be long enough for me to want to review my slides anyway. And so I wouldn't have any resistance to that. I would see that. Like, I'm gonna have to sit down and do it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd probably update a video or two, or look for some more specifics. Hmm. Yeah.
So that's cool perspective. Like you're already doing it. You would do it normally anyway, but you have to do a little bit more because it's some change to curriculum. But
Yeah.
it may not be.
Well, it's not
It
tiring,
may not.
right?
Yeah, it doesn't look as big of an extra amount as what it originally looked like when we first started here.
Yeah. And existing training is is good. It's a good program. So yeah, just some tweaks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, another way to do
I
this
do want to.
this kind of statement, another way to turn it around is instead of I don't want to generalize my class, and you've done I want to, you can also play with those I'm willing to or I look forward to
Yeah,
generalizing my class. That turnaround fits with this kind of
that's
statement.
true. Yeah, now I'm interested. And it's not tiring. Okay. Um, I don't want to generalize my life.
Okay, as a kind of turnaround.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't want to generalize my life. It's like, and the work does that. The work puts us all on the same plane. And if I generalize my life, then I won't be able to get upset about a specific thing, and um, I won't be able to get mad at someone. But by generalizing my life, it there would be little that could occur that could upset me, because like instead of these things have to happen, anything can happen.
So what does that mean? Generalize your life.
It takes me out of the specific. Like my life has to look a certain way,
Okay.
because it doesn't always look the way I specifically think it should. Wasn't that why we do the work? Right?
Mm-hmm. Like instead of thinking you have to do a certain kind of class, something else comes
Yeah,
along,
and then I have
right?
to do a certain kind of life.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've been not wanting to generalize, and by generalizing, I think that's what Byron Katie does. She just sees everyone the same. Everything
Hmm.
is beautiful. Questions any thought that comes in. That would be generalizing my life.
That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's just generalize everything as
I,
okay or good. Yeah.
and then there's no people,
Hmm.
I don't pick specific people to like or dislike.
Hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, it's like with the like the original statement, I don't want to generalize my class, or in this case, we're even thinking life. It's like somehow generalization is getting a bad name.
Yeah.
General is bad, specific is good. And you even had that experience of when you weren't specific, someone complained, and then you started being more specific and you got less complaints or no more complaints. So then the mind says generalization, bad, specifics, good, and tries to and then if you're having to go towards generalization, it's like no, I don't want to go there. That's bad.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow.
And this is kind of opening it out again and saying maybe generalizing is as good as specifics. Maybe there's a time and place for each, and they're both good. And
And in the generalizing, I can be clear that there are some things that are going to be different for each piece of equipment.
yeah,
I remember a long time ago, I was at the fire station and the guys were at a fire and I was off duty, but they called me on the radio and asked me to bring a particular unit there. And I'd never driven that unit. So I got in it and there were no keys. There was no place to put a key. I didn't know where the keys were, and I had to get back on the radio and go, I don't know how to even start this thing. You know? Yeah, and someone told me where I could find the keys, but it had the ignition had gotten moved to under the dashboard,
wow,
and yeah,
yeah,
and you put a key in. It was a weird key too. Anyway, but that was like what made me think of that was I guess it's in my head. I'm thinking, oh, I'm delaying the delivery of this vehicle that they need for this emergency by not knowing how to do something. So if I get specific, It's like specifically knowing how this particular piece of equipment works. And that's when I think, okay, I'm going to go teach them how to use some equipment. They need to know how that piece of equipment works.
Right. Yeah. So again, the mind starts gravitating towards specific is good and general is
Yeah.
not so useful. And so I better keep focusing on specific. And if I'm forced to go to general, that's uncomfortable because it's somehow lesser.
Yeah.
There's a
People
yeah,
will get in trouble because they don't know the specifics.
right.
Yeah.
And there's some truth in it, of course, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of think of my own experience with teaching and learning, and there's a kind of a dialogue between general and specific. There's a back and forth. Like there's general principles and specific applications, and they kind of inform each other. And sometimes going into the general helps me understand the specific better, and sometimes going into the specific helps me understand the general
Yeah.
better, and they kind of
So
work
the
like
blend, and I can do that. I
yeah.
mean, I can give specific examples that they could look for, even though the class won't say, you do it this way. I can say, here are some ways that this is done. And you have to figure out which one applies to this piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's still kind of that thing that you found that you may not even have to generalize your class that much if you can hold your client to getting the manual for you, or if you find the manual yourself and you can dial in on whatever it is they're using.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So okay.
So I don't want to do the general. So I don't want to be specific?
That's no, we haven't done that.
Okay.
Instead of I don't want to generalize my class, I don't want to
To
make my class specific.
specificize my class.
Specify. Yeah. Whatever that word
Right.
is.
I don't want to get too into the details of my class.
Hmm.
That can confuse some people. Some people, they really do need to understand the basics of it. I mean, a wood chipper works a very particular way, but like the key in that unit, each one has a different procedure. And so I want to let them know that they have to find out what that procedure is. And here's an example
Mm-hmm.
of a procedure for this one,
Right.
right? Even though
Otherwise, you can just bombard them with so many specifics. They can't see the forest for the trees, and they're just feeling confused and overwhelmed.
there is something in the OSHA manual that states that people will be trained on the equipment that they're using. And I
Okay,
can contact the client and tell them they have to find the documents for that piece of equipment to be legal.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
But if I call my class a general wood chipper safety class, then even if I do get specific, my other concern is that they'll know that this isn't the same for all the equipment. They won't go buy a new piece of equipment or go to another city and not be able to operate it, or go rent one.
Hmm.
People think they know how to do something because they saw someone else do it, and that was a large part of responding in emergencies is for people who get hurt operating um, any kind of lawn care equipment. There's a lot of people who get injured doing
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Okay.
So, general, a general class on how to run a wood chipper with a specific specialization on your particular kind of wood chipper,
Mhm.
right? It could be almost like a class, general class with a specific little module that you plug in and out. You can now
Like
have
you will have to find where you put the key. You will have to find where you press the on button. You will,
mm,
on this one, it's here, kind of thing. And it's the same thing with the second half of the class is chainsaw. And every model of chainsaw operates a different way, has different screws in different places and different requirements. So I can semi generalize that as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
general and specific. Cool.
Okay. That's cool.
So overall, remember you said, I don't like generalizing.
Uh-huh.
So
Huh.
turn it around and play with a turnaround there. It's
I
on the
like
same topic.
generalizing. I if I do it in the right places, it gives people a broader understanding of how things could be different, and they could be looking for the differences ahead of time, which would make it safer for them.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And
Place,
it's not that hard.
place. Once the mind gets out of that rabbit hole, you
Yeah, it's getting
know.
already exhausted for something I haven't even started yet.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can generalize that. Thanks.
Thank you.